Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to talk about what is unfortunately probably the most dead content inside the entirety of Raid Shadow Legends, and not only are we going to be talking about it, we're also going to be providing a few potential fixes for if somebody at Plarium is watching this, or if somebody with some sway over Plarium's decision making is watching this. So let's go ahead and hop just straight into it here. The content that I am talking about is going to be the potion keeps, and this is the potion keeps as an entirety, so it's going to be the arcane as well as every single one of the affinity related keeps. Now, why is it dead content? Well, if you're a very early game player, if you're just starting off in Raid Shadow Legends, you may not get that, you may not understand it. For somebody who's been playing the game like I have for 4, probably over 5 years now at this point, you can certainly understand why this content is not very important for most players' accounts. When I first started the game, I had to push hard and farm inside those dungeons to get my first, 6 stars or get, a few champions up to 5-star ascension and those sorts of things. But now, as a late game player, I'm going to go ahead and show you how my potion mixer looks. These are the potion numbers that I have. Obviously, the lowest numbers are going to be the magic potions because they're used for every single ascension. Whereas you can see, I have 307 big pots for force. I have 326 big pots for magic. I have 26 big pots for void. And I have like thousands of the medium pots. You can't really see for magic, but I have 1,500 small. I have 1,049 big, so I can just casually make 104 magic pots whenever I need them. Simple as that. And now this might sound like a lot, and you might think to yourself, wow, you've been farming a lot. Well, I'm not here to burst any bubbles or anything like that, but I actually haven't farmed these potion keeps at all in at least 3 years on my account. At least. I have not farmed them a single time. Now, why is this? Well, there's a lot of areas, frankly, where we just get the rewards from it. So if we go and take a look at, say, for example, the Arcane Keep, what do we get as drops? Well, obviously we get the potions, we get potentially XP brews, and then we get shards, right? There's nothing special that comes from here. What do we get from the Void Keep? Well, we get Void brews, we get, more shards, and then we get silver, right? Again, nothing special that comes from here. So realistically, when you're also progressing through the game inside areas like Doom Tower, as you can see on some of these stages, you're just going to get set drops of potion pots, right? And it's going to be different depending on which version of Doom Tower that you're farming. So stage 116, for example, stage 106, stage 96 gave it to me. They're basically just spread out incrementally in there. We're also getting these from Clan Boss daily. We're also getting them from City of Centranos, right? There is a ton of City of Centranos stages, especially on normal mode, that are giving you these pots, right? So you can see we're getting small ones here. We come over here and we're still getting small void ones. We keep progressing through this content and we're going to eventually start to see some of the bigger ones as well, right? So right here we see medium magic pots. We come into hard mode and the drops are still very much the same, but you're going to be seeing that we're now just farming medium pots instead, right? So Plarium did have the foresight to obviously make it a little bit more ranked up for late game players, right? So you're getting more relevant resources. This means, though, with all these different sources of the pots coming into your account, you're not farming these dungeons whatsoever. And it's really a shame because every time you open up the dungeon, you're confronted with these 5 dungeons right here that you just don't care about, right? It means nothing. You might come in here to farm Iron Twins, but then for the rest of it, they just serve as an annoyance where you have to scroll over to get to the rest of the dungeons that you might actually care about. And we're constantly seeing the advent of, new gear coming in. We're seeing power creep with new gear, all those sorts of things. I'm going to give some suggestions now that I think would be fantastic solutions to this problem for Plarium. And I just want to elaborate real quick why it's a problem. So in 99% of situations in 99% of games, so the vast majority, you shouldn't have content in the game that players are purposely not interacting with, right? As a late game player, you can see the hundreds of pots, the thousands of pots that I have on my account. There is not a chance in hell that I'm going to spend energy on these dungeons unless I misclick, right? Somebody steals my account, or, for example, there's a mission or something like that, like a Marius mission that requires it, right? There's not a chance in hell that I'm going to be in here farming it. So this is just dead content for most players, right? Because it takes very little time for you to actually be able to start farming City of Centranos, right? It's something that you can do fairly early on, where you're going to start to get those pots. It takes, what, to level 40 or something like that to actually be able to start farming Doom Tower. Whether or not you can push through it is a different story, right? But there's going to be a point very quickly in every single raid player's career where these dungeons just do not mean anything anymore, right? So how do we fix that? We went over what the problem is, we went over the why it's a problem, and now how do we actually fix that? Well, there's a few different things I can potentially think of. First of all, this has been talked about for quite some time, this particular solution by people like Ash or Hell Hades, so I'm certainly not sitting here and trying to take credit for this idea, but put pages in here, right? Give us the option to farm books, essentially. Make it so that a book requires 100 pages of a certain rarity. Make it so that, you know, Void Keep has a decent chance of giving you a legendary page, a decent chance of an epic page. Make it so that, you know, the other dungeons have a decent chance, but they have a higher chance of giving you, like, rare pages, right? Because that is actually, surprisingly, the one pain point for late game players is rare books, especially if you're not spending on this game. Because if we look at Clan Boss, right? When you get to the Ultra Nightmare level, you don't get rare books as a drop from here. Even, I don't think in Nightmare, I don't want to check it right now because I don't want to claim my chest, because actually I might have a key sitting around. Let me see if I can do that. I like claiming the chest right as I'm ready to put a key into it. I do have a key sitting here, so we'll go ahead and we'll do that for the video. So I don't think Nightmare chests at the highest level give you rare books either. Let's go ahead and see what we got though. Some rare gear here, fantastic. As you can see, we're getting potion pots from this as well, and a sacred shard. Nice, sweet. So let's go ahead and take a look. Ultra Nightmare level, a Nightmare level, both of them, you're not getting rare books, right? So potential solution number one, put pages inside these dungeons. Allow us to say, hey, 100 pages going to equal a book, different rarities of books. You could maybe even throw in mythical books if you wanted to be very generous, although I don't think there's a chance in hell that this idea is going to happen, let alone mythical books being part of it. So that might be wishful thinking. Another few options you can do, right? This is rotating content, obviously, very much like City of Centranos. So throughout the week, you go through the Spirit Keep, Magic Keep, Force Keep, and then on the weekends, it's Void Keep, right? So why not make this something like Iron Twins, where it rotates the same as it is currently, but why not actually add a gear set that's specific to these dungeons, right? So overall, it would take, what, 5 gear sets to be added? You could even say, hey, we're just going to add 1 gear set for the entirety of the dungeons, but Void Keep has a higher chance of dropping it, or Force Keep, whatever keep you want to make it, right? Because realistically, Void Keep might be a bit easier, just considering that, you know, you can use any champion here. An affinity matchup is not going to matter. As you can see, you have somebody like Thor just blasting through it, no problem, right? Add a special gear set to this. Make it interesting to farm. Make it, you know, the potion gear set, right? Potion Keeper gear set. There you go. There's the name for it, Plarium. Potion Keeper. Make it something that's going to power up your PvP teams. Make it something that's going to power up your PvE teams. Make it the Potion Keeper gear set, and make poison stronger. Just solve the problem with this dungeon, right? I literally just came up with that on the spot as I came up with the name, people. This is how easy the fix would be. It's the potion dungeons. Call it the Potion Keeper. Make it so that your poisons are, like, you know, 2.5 times stronger. And I don't mean like multiplicative, I mean additive. Make it so that, you know, you go from a 2.5% poison to a 5%. If you have this gear set on. Make it so that you go from a 5% to a 7.5% chance, right? Make it a variable gear set that gives you up to a 9-piece bonus. Make it so that the 9-piece bonus gives you a chance of placing an extra poison on any skill that would regularly place a poison. This would make it actually exciting to farm these dungeons again. It would give players ways to get more gear for their account for sets that are actually impactful, because currently these sets are all getting so power crept, right? Nobody's going to be using life, offense, or defense sets. Simple as that. There's probably, like, you know, 5 pieces on my entire account, and we're actually going to fact check this here. So we're going to go to filter, we're going to go to equipped, we're going to expand these. There's a little bit more than 5, but you can see these particular sets are basically equipped on nobody, and where they are equipped is they're just really weird fill-in champions, right? You compare that to, like, my speed set, and you can see the important difference of this, right? So players aren't going to be focused on these, retroactive gear sets that, way back in the day might have actually been pretty good. Now what we're looking at is we're looking at all these 1 to 9 variable gear sets, right? Like Supersonic and Merciless, but then the rest of these, by far and large, are ridiculously broken sets, but they're also not very accessible to most players, right? So Slayer set is literally a pay-to-win set, simple as that. Feral set requires you to be in a good clan so that you can participate and win in clan versus clan sieges. Pinpoint requires you to spend obscene amounts of energy inside the event dungeon, and essentially for the duration of the event dungeon being open, just farming it 24/7 constantly to have a chance of avoiding becoming a sheep in the arena. Stone Cleaver and Rebirth are so locked and gated behind progress in PvP, and a lot of players don't even like the PvP content, let alone want to participate in it enough to actually be able to farm decent gear sets from these sets, right? So these sets are all very inaccessible, so add the Potion Keeper set to this, right? Make it so that, here's an idea, Plarium, right? Make it so that the Arcane Keep can drop you any piece of it, but it's at a lower rate. Make it so that Spirit Keep will drop you, say weapon and gloves. Make it so that Magic Keep is going to drop you helmet and chest. Make it so that Force Keep is going to drop you shield and boots. And make it so that the Void Keep will drop you your accessories for this particular set. And hell, if you want to do the same thing that you did with the event dungeon, where you take some of the other sets from these other dungeons and throw it in there, right? Give us also the potential drop chance of life and offense and defense. Give us, maybe some life steal and destroy in there. Give us toxic as well, just to make it interesting, right? That would be such a good fix, and it would give you a reason to actually farm this. And I do have a few other ideas, so we could simply start to implement events for this, right? So you could start to include potion keeps as dungeon diver points, because they are part of the dungeon, but you don't actually get them counted towards the points. That's the same thing with Sand Devil and Phantom Shogun, right? I think they should be counted inside the dungeon diver. Same thing with Iron Twins. Realistically, anything, Minotaur as well, anything inside the dungeon, anything inside this big fancy button here that says, and read it with me people, it says dungeons, right? So when you have an event called Dungeon Divers, you want to be able to earn points from any of the content contained within your dungeons, and that's not how it works right now, unfortunately. So change that, make that an option, right? Give us tournaments that we can participate in here. Give us, reward tracks that we can follow if we don't have energy to spend somewhere else, and give us epic or legendary books. Give us, even small soul shards, and you're gonna have people that are actually going for this. Hell, if you want to be really unique with us, give us some sort of hard mode that we can progress through that might have, specific challenges or something like that, very similar to what we're seeing with the hard mode faction wars coming out, and make it so that players can farm their way or complete their way through challenges to something like another free mythical champion, right? Why not take this fantastic looking boss design that you have for the bosses here, right? So the Void boss looks pretty cool. The Arcane boss is very basic, but also still looks, pretty cool, right? Why not take some of these boss designs and turn them into playable mythical champions for players to obtain, right? And put them into factions that actually need champions. Like, for example, make one of these a mythical champion that can revive and throw it into the Lizardman faction, because holy fuck, are we lacking revivers inside the Lizardmen, especially if you didn't go for the Pytheon fusion. Good luck if you need any sort of reviver from that faction. Overall, so many different options that you could implement to really just resolve the fact that this is absolutely dead content. Giving some sort of a gear set that would allow poisons to be stronger is going to make it more viable inside Chimera. It's going to make it more viable inside Hydra. It's going to make it easier to farm PvE content as well. It's also going to make champions like Nell a little bit more fun to use inside PvP as well, especially, right? So there would be so many positives to doing something like that, and I really hope that this video can get some traction and that we can start to have that dialect with Plarium and talk about it. And maybe someday I'll even become a content creator inside this community, even though I meet the tier 2 requirements for their CC program, but I haven't been accepted yet. And maybe once I get into that program, I can have a direct line with their community rep and pitch some of these ideas directly. So that being said, make sure to hop into the Discord, which is linked down below, and make sure to like and subscribe to the content as well if you enjoy it and if you want to help that happen someday. As always though, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.